بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So we'll just do a very quick recap as to what we covered last time, and then we'll start with today's class, inshallah. Good? Okay. Bismillah. So we are redoing the dream. So we discussed last time that Yusuf alayhi salam the king first was, he was shown a dream, a vision in his dream. And when he woke up, he thought to himself, I need to find out what this means. So he called all of his supporters, he called his, Imam Razi says, the kahana, the soothsayers, people who may have the power or ability to give him the interpretation. He called them, and all of them, they said, Al-Ghathu Ahlam. These are just a bundle of words and images. They don't actually mean anything. Meaning, we don't know what it is. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ. Okay, so then we said that the one who was saved out of the two prisoners from the beginning of the story, or from the beginning of the prison scene, one of them was saved. The one who was saved was in the company of the king. And he remembered all of a sudden, وَالدَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ, after a long time. And this is probably like 7 years later. He remembered that there's someone that I know who does dream interpretation. So he went, Yusuf ayyuha as-siddiq, oh my friend Yusuf, here's a dream, tell me about it. He didn't tell him that this was for the king. He just said what he said. So then we come here to the dream interpretation. قال تزرعون سبع سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا مما تأكلون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك سبع شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن إلا قليلا مما تحصنون. So he said there's going to be 7 years. The meaning of the 7 cows will be, there's going to be 7 years where everything that you harvest is going to be good. Okay? You're going to get the plants, but here's what you need to do. Take only a little bit out of the plants, out of the vegetables, and everything else store away. So a little bit that you can keep, and then everything else you store. And then after that, you're going to get 7 very difficult years. During the course of those 7 years, you're going to have to eat whatever you saved before. And meaning, you're only going to have during those years whatever you saved before. So then we came to this ayah, and I think this is where we left off last time. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسُ وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. This is very interesting, the way that this ayah comes. So 7 skinny cows eating 7 fat cows, which is technically the opposite of what you would imagine. Then you have 7 grains of corn that are empty, or not green, I mean, that are eating the ones that are green. The dead plants eating live plants. Okay, you have that, and then you have the 2 ayahs that we just went over. 7 years of ease, and then 7 years of hardship. Right? Makes sense. That's what the dream is. We've finished essentially interpreting the dream at this point. 7 cows, 7 grains of crops. Then this ayah comes, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. Then right after that will come a year. مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ. In it, will be, plenty of rain is going to come down. وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. And they will press. يَعْصِرُونَ is to squeeze out the juice, or like juice fruits. وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. Where does this come from? Where in the dream does this come from? What do you think? Oh, sure. The dream is في سبع بقرات سمان يأكلهن سبع عجاف. Give us the verdict on 7 fat cows that 7 thin ones eat, and 7 green spikes of grain with others dried up, so that I can go back to the people and hopefully they'll come to know. So he gave the answer. You'll for the numbers of 7. You'll plant diligently for 7 years, and whatever you harvest, leave inside its spikes, except the small amount which you'll eat. Right after that will come 7 tough years, which will consume what you've prepared in advance for them, except for a small amount which you will keep in reserve. So the cows, corn, the crops, taken care of. Now, right after that will come another year. Where did this extra year come from? A little louder, Malik. Marking the end of the 7 years of hardship. How would you figure that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Perfect. So both of you guys actually answered the question. Both of you guys actually got it, answered the question. The first is, how does he know that it's 1 year, what's going to happen in the year after? Where does that information come from? When he says, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ سَبْعٌ شِدَادٌ. When he says after that 7 hard years are going to come, then the meaning of that is after those 7 years, then the landscape is going to change. Then the situation is going to change. So it's only natural that after that happens, things are going to go back to normal. That's a logical understanding that we have. Now in this, فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ, meaning that there will be so much rain, it will be more than enough rain for everyone. So how would he have come to this understanding? Because when he says شِدَادٌ يَأْكُلْنَ مَا قَدَّمْتُمْ لَهُنَّ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تُحْصِنُونَ, everything except that small amount that you have kept for yourself will be depleted. Almost everything will be depleted. In that time, they didn't have like DoorDash. Right? So when they wanted to eat, they couldn't just go to the restaurant, put it on their phone, and it would come to them no matter what the climate is outside. What was the situation? Their food and their drink was based on agriculture. Was based on growing food on farms. If rain didn't come down, then you wouldn't have crops to eat. You wouldn't have vegetables and fruits. You wouldn't have this. So when the statement is that you are going to be depleted of what happens, then the meaning of that is the 7 difficult years are years of famine. They're years of famine, meaning there's no rain that is coming down so that your crops can grow. Since this is set at a time where after 7 years, since this is given a restricted amount of time of 7 years, that means whatever happens after that will be different, will change. So he's saying more than enough rain is going to come down, so much so, وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ, just like you said, there will be plenty of extra olives and grapes and all of these fruits and vegetables, all of this, there will be so much extra that you will even be able to squeeze wine out and make oils, which is not naturally something you could do if you didn't have an abundance of that food, because you would have to be very restricted with what you eat. So, how did he know that this was going to happen? One way is that this is, it's not directly from the dream, it is an interpretation of the dream. The second is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly revealed what is going to happen. He directly revealed to him what is going to happen after this. Okay. Number 2, I have on here going above and beyond. And why did I mention this? Because Yusuf alayhi salam, like I mentioned last time, he told this guy, when you go back to the king, tell the king about me. And he forgot. As a result, how much longer was Yusuf alayhi salam in jail? 7 more years. He was in jail for 7 more years. He was already in jail for 5, so now it's a total of 12 years. He comes, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, Yusuf, my friend, here's another dream for you." And no, sorry, no, oh, yeah, I was busy, I couldn't get back. None of that. He just says, "This is the dream." But Yusuf alayhi salam answered the entire dream. Not only did he give him the exact interpretation of the 7 and 7, but he even gave him the extra year. Tax-free. Right? This is him going above and beyond. This is him with his ihsan, his excellence. Why? Because this is the manners of the prophets. And ya'sirun, I already discussed that. Okay. So for today's ayat, inshallah, let's see how much we get through. But we are now nearing the end of the scene, and basically half of the surah. Basically half of the surah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقال الملك ائتوني به فلما جاءه الرسول قال ارجع إلى ربك فاسأله ما بال النسوة اللاتي قطعن أيديهن إن ربي بكيدهن عليم. Okay, so he goes back to the king and he gives the interpretation to the king. Okay, and we can kind of guess here. Something happened in that conversation where he either told him the interpretation and the king was like, "Where did you get this information from? Tell me." Or he said that it was from Yusuf alayhi salam. Essentially, he got the interpretation and he said, "Bring him to me." Talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Down here, okay. But when the messenger reached him, he said, "Go back to your master and ask him about the current status of the women who cut their hands, because my master is fully aware of their scheme." All right. So there's a lot of to unpack here. We're going to go bit by bit, inshallah. First thing, he says to this messenger. We can kind of assume that this messenger is who? The one that was saved from prison. He was a prisoner, the initial prisoner. Okay. However, in the books of Tafsir, it's not completely clear who this messenger is. He said, "Irji' ila rabbik," go back to your Lord. And this is in reference to most likely the king. فَاسْأَلْهُ, ask him what is going on with those women who cut their hands. Okay. So why did the king ask for him? Question number one. Good. Very good. So, no one else could figure this dream out. Everyone just said that it was nonsense. But someone gave that answer. So he said, go and bring him to me. Eventually he's going to say, okay, this was a prisoner. Now, if you were in prison and you had the chance to get out to go to the king, the first thing that you would do is, typically you would go out to go and meet the king. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he didn't do that. He refused to leave. Why? He was there for a very specific reason, and he needed to be exonerated before he left. He had to be exonerated. He had to be freed from any accusation, even the smallest shadow of a doubt that he did anything wrong. So he refused to leave. So, that gets us to the second point. How was Yusuf's response appropriate? He has two choices. You impress the king, you get to get out. Otherwise, you don't know how much longer you're going to stay in jail. Or the second option is, no, you stand your ground. Why was Yusuf alayhi salam's response appropriate? Very good. So this is one point. Say you get out and everything's good, you're not a prisoner anymore, and you're in the company of the king. The king is always going to have this thought in the back of his mind, what if this person really did what they accused him of doing? Then what happens? How are you supposed to work in that environment? If you know the rest of the story, inshallah we can get to that ayah today, his trustworthiness is the reason why he got to where he went to. But if he was willing to do something with the wife of another man, then could that be considered a trustworthy man? No. What's another reason? Mm-hmm.
Then you would have like more confidence in Yusuf being Siddiq, like because he was referred to as Siddiq, I think.
Okay, so good point. Although one edit that I would make is he didn't know he was going to have a high that he was going to have the spotlight. He didn't know that he was going to have a high position. That happened after he was released. Right? Like we'll get to today. He didn't know. However, everything else applies exactly to him. How so? Because Yusuf alayhi salam, he cared more about his reputation than he did about being falsely imprisoned. And if he got out on the, let's say, presidential pardon, then that is not exoneration. If he were to come out, people would just say, oh, he knows the king, that's why they let him out. But people would still think that someone of his status, prophet, son of a prophet, son of a prophet, son of a prophet who was the friend of Allah, was someone who did something so lowly. So it was important for him to be exonerated before he came out. Also, he was in jail for 12 years. Someone who is in jail for 12 years would want to leave. They are not going to want to stay. So the fact that he refused to leave until this was settled was further endorsing the fact that he knew that he was innocent and that other people had to do the investigation. Because if he was guilty, or if he had any guilt at all in the whole situation, and he requested an investigation, then what would happen? He would get caught. So it's only fitting that someone who knows that he's 100% innocent refuse to get any special treatment of getting out without a full investigation that exonerates him completely. Okay. Now, he says, Inna Rabbi bikaydihinna alim. Indeed, my master is well aware or fully aware of their scheming, of their scheme. Who is there? Because it's plural. The women. But who schemed? And what was the scheme? The wife of the Aziz. So if she is the one who plotted, why is it plural here? They were there, so guilty by association. Is that what landed him in jail? So Yusuf alayhi salam was inside of a building with a number of other women. They cut their hands and he ends up in jail? Why did he go to jail? Okay, so this was a while after that. They knew what the truth was, but if you remember from that class, the women had succumbed, or the wife of the Aziz had set up this entire thing, put this thing to motion, so that those who were backbiting her and destroying her reputation, they could learn firsthand, pun intended, how difficult it was to be with Yusuf in the same place. Then when all of them cut their hand, they realized at that point how difficult it was to have Yusuf alayhi salam there. So now at this point, the wife of the Aziz wants Yusuf again. He refuses again. Now she's angry. So she talks to the husband. All these women who are in the town, and everyone in the whole town is talking about me and talking about us and this and that and whatever. So the husband, the Aziz, he decides, okay, you know what? This is going on for too long. I have to throw him in jail. So he says, for a specific amount of time. This happened. Now, fast forward to here. What could bikaydihinna mean? It was that one, the kaid, or the plotting was that all of them wanted Yusuf. Maybe just the wife of the Aziz did it, but they're guilty because they all wanted Yusuf. That's one. Okay? So because obviously they couldn't get him, they started to attack him and throw obscenities at him and all of these things. That's one possibility. The other is they all went to great lengths to help out the wife of the Aziz. So because of their involvement, they are guilty by association. And then the third one is the other women, the ones who cut their hands. And then the third one is the kaid it's not talking about what happened in the past before Yusuf went to jail. It's talking about what is happening currently right now in front of the king. So the king calls them together and then they have their conversations, and this is a reference to that moment. But we're going to go with it's one of the first two because they're kind of similar in meaning, and the essence here is they are all guilty. They are all guilty either for the actual selection itself or for helping to enable it in some way. Okay. Now, what are some subtle lessons that we learn from this ayah? There's some hidden gems here that when we look a little bit deeper, we can kind of unlock. So the first thing is فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ اللَّاتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنْ. He said, go back and ask the king what his opinion is or what has happened, what he's thinking about this situation. Did Yusuf alayhi salam order the king to do an investigation? No. He didn't. What is he doing right now? What's going through Yusuf's mind? Yusuf alayhi salam has something that the king needs, or at this point he wants, which is dream interpretation. He's impressed. He sees that this person is righteous and he has knowledge. This is what people say about Yusuf alayhi salam. He's intrigued. It's told to him he's been in jail for 12 years. So now what? He says, okay, go and get him. Instead of saying, no, tell the king that I am innocent. I'm not coming out here until you free me. Or just going with him and not even caring about that. He says, go back to the king and ask him what he thinks about the incident that happened. Now, does the king know? Perhaps. Why perhaps? Okay, that's good. He has direct ties to the Aziz, and this is the Aziz's wife. So, okay, that's a possibility. What's another possibility? He will investigate, but how would he have already known? Let's say 12 years ago, how would he have known? The king. How would the king, how might the king have come across this information of what's happening in the Aziz's house between his wife and Yusuf?
Because he sent the messenger back.
Yes, that's how the investigation starts. But I'm saying 12 years ago, before he even knew Yusuf existed essentially, how might have that information gotten to the king? There we go. Why was it such a problem? Why did the Aziz throw Yusuf alayhi salam in jail? Because it became the talk of the town. And if it becomes the talk of the town, it's very likely that it's going to make its way back to the king as well. Right? So what did he say? Simply, what do you think about those women who cut their hands? Okay. What is this going to do to Yusuf, for Yusuf? It's going to spark intrigue, interest in the king. I need to find out because I heard of some gossip from before, but now there is this man who's in jail who is the only one who had the knowledge that I needed. He's been there for 12 years. I'm giving him an opportunity to leave, but he won't leave. So something else is going on here. I'm intrigued now. So, then after that, the next ayah will happen. We'll get there in a second. But for the other subtle lessons from this ayah, he says, what do you think about the women that did this? who cut their hands. Did he say, what do you think about the women who tried to seduce Yusuf? No. Did he say, what do you think about the wife of the Aziz? No. What's the lesson here? What's the benefit here? Hiding the sin. Manners when discussing, and we talked about this a while ago for when Yusuf alayhi salam was running away from Zulaykha, and the Aziz walked in, and how Yusuf handled that situation, how much information to give, how much to abstain from, what your responsibility is in terms of exonerating yourself or defending yourself at the very least. So we talked about that then, but here he's doing something similar where he's only giving the information that's needed for the king to figure out the rest, while at the same time he is not throwing anyone under the bus. It would not have been beneficial at all to say, what do you think the wife of the Aziz, what do you think about her actions towards me? That would not have benefited. And let's say even if he did say, how would the Aziz how would the king have received that? His right-hand man's wife, the Aziz's wife. This is the one that you want to talk to me about? Stay in jail. Go stay in jail, right? What else would he have said?
Well, he's like protecting everyone's dignity.
Exactly.
He's focusing like on the point of the manner without dragging like anybody through the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So it just like goes to show like how good he is, you know, like he's so righteous that he's like preserving people's dignity.
Ye-
He's making it about himself, you know.
Very good.
Like that's what his intentions are.
Very good. And at this point, he could have mentioned her explicitly. And if he did, could we blame him? She's the reason that he's in jail for 12 years. But still, he doesn't do it. Very good. Okay. So, we will move on to the next ayah now. قال ما خطبكن إذ راوتن يوسف عن نفسه قلنا حاش لله ما علمنا عليه من سوء قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. Okay. He, the king, said, what were you women up to when you tried to have Yusuf give himself to you? They said, God above. This is the translation. But essentially it's like, Subhanallah. We know of nothing shameful to discredit him. The minister's wife declared, the truth is now laid bare. I'm the one who tried to make him give himself to me. And he really is an honest man. All right. So a few things. خطبكن. Okay? خطبكن is in regards to something that is important. An important topic. That's when you would use this word. He says kunna, which is plural for feminine, and he's speaking to multiple women. Imam Razi says there's two things here. There's two possibilities. The first is he's only speaking to Zulaykha. He's only speaking to the wife of the Aziz. But this is a way of speaking, maybe giving respect, that he does it in the plural form. The other possibility is that this is for all of those women who cut their hands when they saw Yusuf. And again, like we mentioned before, why would they have been guilty if the king mentioned them in this manner? Because either they all tried to seduce Yusuf or they all enabled the wife of the Aziz to do it. But regardless, they are guilty for being a part of that situation. So then they say two things or two parts happen here that exonerate Yusuf alayhi salam. The first is, ما علمنا عليه من سوء. We don't know anything bad about him. We don't know anything bad about him. Either the wife of the Aziz is saying that, or all of the women collectively are saying that we don't know anything bad about him. And then the wife of the Aziz is explicitly mentioned as saying, الآن حصحص الحق. What does حصحص mean? There's two possibilities of the meaning of حصحص. Either the first is that something becomes clear and manifest. It becomes clear and manifest. It's out there and there is no going back on it. This word is not something that's regularly used in Arabic. This word حصحص is not a word that's normally used in Arabic. But it's brought up here to show the severity of the situation. And we can even kind of even extrapolate a wisdom from that the truth about something, a person who's falsely lied about, how rarely they are exonerated. So this word is rarely used in the Arabic language. So that's one, is حصحص الحق, means that it becomes true and clear, because it's like setting itself firm. It's setting itself down firmly. So meaning that there's no other interpretation that's possible. The other is that it's from hissa. Hasa comes from the word hissa, meaning that the portion of truth has now become clear. There was some truth, there was some lies, there was some, in the entire story. But now the truth has become clear. These are the two possibilities of what it could be. And we talked about hasha lillah, right? Hasha lillah is just a statement of amazement. What did they say in their Egyptian language? Allah knows best, but it's probably something along the same lines of Subhanallah. How amazing is Allah, or glory be to Allah, meaning that Allah is free from any imperfection. But as we know, they were not monotheistic, they were polytheistic people. Okay, here's a question now. This is a question that I was actually going back and forth for a while today. I couldn't come up with the answer until like 2 hours ago. And I'll tell you how. I called Imam Asif to ask him, because this is what his PhD was on. I was like, maybe he'll know the answer to this. So he explained to me in a very, very simple way, and it made a lot of sense. Break down for me, really quickly, what is happening in these two ayahs, the last ayah and this ayah. Yusuf alayhi salam's in jail. What does he say? I'm not leaving until what? Until you go and talk to the king and he does his investigation. All right? Okay. Let me give you an example. We're going to say Hafiz Uthman. Everyone knows Hafiz Uthman, right? He just said, maybe he's still downstairs. Maybe he can hear. We're going to say Hafiz Uthman, or none of you are here, it's just me and him. He punches me in the face. I come here and I tell you, Hafiz Uthman punched me in the face. He would never do that, mashallah. But we say he did that. I say that to you. What's the first thing you do? Considering you like me. Wonderful. So he's here in front of you, and you ask him what question? Why did you do it? Right? Okay. Any other question? Why are you throwing him under the bus? Why am I throwing him under the bus? Yeah, promise is going to a point. I was first thinking of using your name, but then I was like, nah, I don't want you to hit me in this situation. Okay, that's one question. Why did you do it? What's the other question? I want someone to come up with it. It's very simple. Don't overthink it. You hear of a situation. What is the first question that you ask? What did I do to deserve that? So I'm automatically guilty. Okay. Come on. What questions are coming to your mind? What's the backstory? Okay, keep going. Let's say I'm no longer here. Okay? And Hafiz Uthman is sitting here in front. What's the first thing that you ask him? Where's Imam Wajid? Okay. Yeah? Good. Is it true? So I'm going to change the question just a little bit. Did you hit him? It took us a long time to get to this point. It took us a really long point. And this tells us about the psychology, the way that our minds work. I appreciate the fact that if I tell you something, you believe it. I appreciate this. Thank you. But the first question, when two people are disputing and one person makes a claim against the other person, is determining or verifying the veracity of the reports. We don't automatically jump to the side of one person against the other person. That's not what we do. So an investigation would happen. In the investigation, you would ask first, the proper question is not why, it's did you do this? This is the first proper question. Then if he says yes, then you ask follow-up questions. But first you have to establish the fact that it happened. Okay. So these are the rules of investigation. Agree or disagree? Yes. Anyone disagree? Do you disagree? No. Okay. So let's go back here. Yusuf alayhi salam is speaking with the king. King is not some small young kid. He's a much older man in charge of the entire country, or at least the northern half of the country. And he's gonna most likely have experience in leading the people. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, what do you think about the incident that occurred? The next ayah is قَالَ مَا خَطُبُكُنَّ إِذْ رَاوَدْتُنَّ يُوسُفَ عَنْ نَفْسِ. What were you women up to when you tried to have Yusuf give himself to you? Or I'm going to change the last bit there so it's not so long. What were you women thinking or trying to do when you tried to seduce Yusuf? His answer, or his first statement, is it closer to why did you do it? Or is it closer to did you do it? It's closer to did you do it. Why? How? He said when you tried to have Joseph give himself to you. Okay. If I was to say, Malik, why were you tickling Hasib during Maghrib? Did you do it? Okay. So then if I said, why were you tickling Hasib during Maghrib? I'm assuming that that's what you were doing. It's a presumption. I'm setting the bar that you have already done this. Yes or no? Okay. So here he says, what were you women up to when you tried to seduce Yusuf? Is that investigation? It's like he was accusing them already. And it took me, I kept going back and forth. I looked through different tafsirs. I even looked through different English translations. All of the English translations said the same thing that I looked at. And then tafsir was two back-to-back, two different situations. Either one opinion was, idh means that it did actually happen and he was accusing them. And the other is, idh means hal. It's a question. Did you actually do this? It's like, Still not helping me. What's the answer? I called Imam Asif, and he gave me the answer. And it was such a good answer because it blends both of the opinions in tafsir together. What do you think it is?
Well, I think in the way that I interpret like this ayah is that basically like he like comes in accusing them, and like all this time has passed, and they like admit, like they pretty much admit their faults, like they exonerate Yusuf by like saying basically like
So if we build off of that presumption, or if we build off that premise, then we are saying that the king didn't do a proper investigation, and he jumped right to accusing them.
right, because he like believed Yusuf, like he like just believed him like right after.
Now that's a possibility, and that's what I was thinking, that maybe there is some strength to that he believed Yusuf, because Yusuf gave him the interpretation of the dream. So maybe Yusuf to him is the best possible person in the whole wide world. But it doesn't seem from context that that's what's going on, although there is a little bit of a hint at that he does believe Yusuf. So again, we're saying the same thing though. He is working on the basis that they are guilty. How? So usually when idh comes, it is based on something that happened in the past. Like it is. Like idh qala Allah, idh qala Ibrahim, idh qala any of the prophets. It's a statement of fact that this has occurred and it occurred in the past. So that's why there's two opinions in the tafsir, that he is making the claim that they did that, and then the other interpretation is that it doesn't actually mean what it normally means here. It means hal, as in questioning it. But what you said is actually the answer. That's what he told me. He said, this is the investigation. That's why I titled it the investigation. This is the investigation. He knew that something was up, but he didn't know exactly what was up. And if he gave them the room to, hey, tell me what happened at that time, maybe they could have come up with a lie or something. They're building on the premise, he's building on the premise, Yusuf alayhi salam, there has to be some truth here, because he's been in jail for 12 years, he knew the dream, he's not an ordinary person, but he's still refusing to come out of jail. Why? So let me work on this. So they're in front of him, and he doesn't say it in an accusatory way, that I know that you did this and I'm going to punish you. He doesn't give them the room to lie, to see what their reaction is going to be. And sometimes parents do this to their kids. Sometimes parents do this to their kids too. And it's effective. Because when you act like you know what it is, you act like you know the truth or you have proof for something, then the other person is much less willing to lie. This happens in court too. Right? If you bluff or you have some kind of hard fact, then the other side is not going to be willing to deny something. Otherwise, they're going to take out the piece of paper like, hey, look, this actually happened. It's right here. It's evidence. So he started the investigation by cornering them to tell the truth. So they have to tell the truth. So that was a fascinating part, because I couldn't understand. To me, it didn't make sense from everything else that I know about the king, that he would automatically jump to accusing them and make them guilty. But he didn't do that. He started the investigation, he spoke to them, but he didn't leave any room for them to lie. So as a result, what happens? He says, what were you thinking when you tried to seduce Yusuf? There's still a bit of, in the back of the head, there's still a bit of, I don't know that you did this, but let's see where my line of questioning goes. So they cave immediately. قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ. Subhanallah. Allah is perfect. We don't know anything negative about Yusuf alayhi salam. First thing out of their mouth. Because if they tried to lie, and let's say he had proof, that would have been even worse for them. Because now they're not with some random person, right, on the street. They are with the king, the highest authority in the land. قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق. Now the truth has come to light. It has been well established. And it is out there for everyone. I'm the one who seduced him. And he was always truthful. All right. Now. See, I think there's one more thing I wanted to mention for... one more thing I wanted to mention here. وَإِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Okay. I got it. قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق. There's one more reason that Imam al-Razi gives as to why the wife of the Aziz admitted her fault. Gives one more reason. And it's not in this ayah, it's in this ayah. What do you think the answer is? They're not monotheists. Interesting. That's an interesting thought. She felt guilty, so she thought she had to take the blame because the other women were also going to get in trouble. This is an element of truth in that. Yeah? How so? Yes, so there is a little bit of that as well. She has been living in guilt for an extended period of time. Imam Razi he mentions that explicitly. He says that it seems that فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ. He says, what do you think about what happened with the women? And he never threw her under the bus. Then the women, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. We don't know anything negative about him. So she's like, you know what? Her heart geared more towards Yusuf alayhi salam, saying, he didn't throw me under the bus. Let me clarify what is going on right now. And it's also possibly true that she had nothing to lose at this point. There are some narrations that say at this point the Aziz had already died. The Aziz had already died. So her husband, she was a widow at this point. So what did she have to lose? She probably already also lost political power because her husband wasn't there to provide that power, right? So it's almost like she had very little to lose. But Allahu A'lam. Yeah, so she was also, he says that too. She felt guilty about what happened for so long, and she said, this is my opportunity. Let me just, put it out there and clear my conscience. Okay, so now, these two ayat, and right, I think today I'm just going to end with these two, even though we're going to end a little early, but I'm going to end with these two. because I don't want to get cut off at the last scene, like last week. ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين وما أبرئ نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي إن ربي غفور رحيم. So I'll read the translation first. I say this so he knows that I didn't betray him behind his back, and that Allah never leads the schemes of betrayers to fruition. Meaning he never lets the kaid, the schemes of other people actually happen. Second ayah, yet I do not call myself blameless. Every innermost self keeps dictating evil, except as much as my master shows mercy. Indeed, my master is greatly forgiving and mercy giving. Okay, and we talked about this, so if you don't remember, this is a very specific translation. It's based on the Bayyina translation. Question number 1. Who said these words? Imratul Aziz. That worked with the king. He was? He is a Muslim? That's unknown. Whether or not he actually accepted Islam or not, that's unknown. You said Imratul Aziz. Okay, so it's not the messenger. No. Any other guesses? It's like a puzzle. Why? Okay. You're on a roll today, Malik. MashaAllah. Any other guesses before we go? Sorry. Who? Who's the speaker here? Yusuf. So we got 2 for Yusuf. We got 1 for Imratul Aziz. Very interesting. Maybe the king? Who would the king have betrayed?
No, it's not the king betrayed. It's like he's talking about the Aziz.
Hold on, hold that thought. We're gonna get there. Betray who? He doesn't betray Yusuf by doing the investigation? The king wants to make sure he doesn't betray Yusuf by doing the investigation. Oh, okay. I think I understand. So Yusuf alayhi salam is not present, and he made a claim. So if the investigation he does shows that Yusuf is wrong, that would be a khiyana for him. So he's doing the investigation to prove his to prove that to prove his innocence, and by not doing the investigation, that would be khiyana. That's it. That's very interesting. That one didn't come across my mind. That's very interesting. So there's two opinions as to who the speaker is: Imratul Aziz, the wife of the Aziz, and Yusuf alayhi salam. Imam Razi, he says that the and do I have complications? I have complications. Okay, great. So Imam Razi, he says there's no conclusive way to figure out who is speaking here. There's no conclusive way. We don't know. There are some hints that may lead to you thinking this way or that way, but there's no way to definitively know. So we'll start off with that and say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows best. Then we go into this. He says that the first opinion is that it was Yusuf alayhi salam speaking. And he says this is what the majority believe. This is Yusuf alayhi salam speaking, and this is what the majority believe. Very good. Hold on to any contention that you have, because he gives the information himself, and I'm just going to go over what he says. But that's a very good point. Yes. So this is important. Continuation is very important. So it's a very, very good point that you brought up. Continuation is important because when you speak in Arabic, then you know that whatever the last thing was mentioned would be just logically what the next part would be the same speaker. So for example, if I'm saying, Trump said he's going to raise the tariffs, and he said La ilaha illallah, you would think I'm talking about Trump because I used a pronoun and I said it right after that sentence. Very good. But I'm going to use the argument against you, not to defend you. Ready? You said قال ما خطبكن, but then Allah says قلنا حاشا لله, and then قالت امرأة. So if قالت is there, then wouldn't it make sense that ذلك would be following after Imrat al-Aziz? So that's one of the contentions, one of the complications for this. But if I've given you this now on the flip side, how can you defend it being Yusuf alayhi salam? Okay. You lost me right at the end, but I like the way that you were thinking before that. That it's a sort of continuation, and speakers can change within the same ayah. Very good. Okay. It's good. But just hold the thought for 1 second. I know where you're coming from, but when we get to the word lam akhun, that's when we'll talk about that. So before that, just about who this ayah could be about, we said either Imratul Aziz or Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay? Okay, one second. Yusuf or Imrat al-Aziz? If we say Imrat al-Aziz, it makes so much sense, yeah? Why? Because the previous ayah is قالت امرأة العزيز and it's just a continuation. Now Yusuf alayhi salam, it would change over here. If you were to say this, the first thing you would have to do is, how can you say that someone in the previous ayah قالت امرأة العزيز, that the wife of the Aziz has said X, Y, and Z, whatever it was, and then you switch to another person? But the response Imam Razi gives is like, Allah does that in the Quran. Allah does that in the Quran. He says, رَبَّنَا وَآتِنَا مَا وَعَدتَّنَا عَلَى رُسُلِكَ وَلَا تُخْزِنَا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. No, that's not the right one. إِنَّكَ لَا تُخْلِفُ الْمِيعَادَ is part of the dua. What is it? Oh, it's from the first page. ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه. How does it end? Someone look up just the first page of Al Imran for me. How does it end? إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. No, إنك لا تخلف الميعاد is from the end. Yeah, the first page of Al Imran. إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. Not إنك. إنك is at the end. إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. What does this mean? It means that the people, right, who understand the Quran, this is what the context is, they are making dua with second person to Allah. They're speaking to Allah. رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ جَامِعُ النَّاسِ لِيَوْمِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. You are the one who collects all people on the Day of Judgment. The Day of Judgment which has there's no doubt about that day. Right? Inna Allah la yukhliful mi'ad is Allah giving us the information that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never betray you, essentially. It switches without another qala there or qala Allah or anything like that. The sequence just changes. So Imam Razi, he says this is completely sensible. It makes sense. It happens elsewhere in the Quran as well. So to say that because قالت امرأة العزيز was mentioned here without mentioning قال Yusuf or anything like that, it doesn't mean that it's not Yusuf alayhi salam. Maybe it would have been more helpful or more definitive, but there is a possibility to say that because of this, it is Yusuf alayhi salam who is saying this ayah. Okay, so now, let's get to yours. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. Now, if we're talking about Yusuf alayhi salam is the one who says this, then who is he referencing? لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. I did not betray him behind his back. The Aziz. The Aziz. That makes a lot of sense there. I did not betray him behind his back. Because that's what he was saying at the beginning of the surah. When the scandal happened, he's like, my Lord has made my station so well. So he has put it together so well. He's given me the best of the world. He's made my life comfortable. أحسن مثواي. So then he's being exonerated, he defends himself, and he says, I did not betray him behind his back. Behind his back meaning he wasn't home. He opened the door, remember? And then all of a sudden he was there. So he behind his back. Okay. Now let's switch over to the wife of the Aziz. If this is the wife of the Aziz, how do you defend this? Who is she talking about? Yusuf? How? Because she feels guilty. So what does it mean? Explain it to me. This is the right answer, but explain to me in what context and what deception or betrayal would mean here. So you have the context down. The context is very good. The specific part that we're looking at is someone said, I didn't betray him behind his back. If you say it's Yusuf, it makes sense. He's automatically talking about the Aziz. I didn't betray the Aziz behind his back. But if the wife of the Aziz is saying that, who is she talking about? Let's do multiple choice. Is she talking about the Aziz? No, because she did betray him. That's pretty good. She tried seducing another man in his house. That's probably one of the worst, betrayals that you could do. So then, who's left in the story? Yusuf. How could she betray Yusuf? But she's saying, Lam akhunhu bil ghayb. I didn't betray him. But and what you're saying did occur. I don't know who said it. Who said it? She did it in front of him. Okay, so, but then what would be the benefit of saying I didn't do anything behind your back? Go ahead. She is not saying the truth. Betray who? Yusuf. She's trying to say she didn't betray Yusuf alayhi salam. So Imam al-Razi, he says, and it's a little bit of a mixture of this. And trying to talk about, she's talking about Yusuf alayhi salam. Let me give you one more bit of information so that it's a little bit more clear about the context. Yusuf is not present in this conversation. Where is Yusuf? He's still in jail. He's refusing to leave the jail. So Yusuf is not there. Okay? When she says, if she's a speaker, lam akhunhu bil ghayb, akhunhu. I didn't betray him. So it's not that I didn't betray you, I didn't betray him. It's talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, because Yusuf is not present over there. Okay? At that, Imam Razi says, the meaning of this is, yes, I accused you of something that you didn't do. However, once you got sent to jail, I didn't say anything negative about you. I didn't continue to ruin your reputation or make matters worse for you after you were already in jail. What's the benefit of mentioning something like that if that was the case? Maintain her reputation? How so? She's still being nice to him. Okay. We're almost out of time. I just want to make sure that I finish this. Going back to what was said earlier about her feeling that sense of guilt. She's like, okay, I know I threw you in jail. You've been in jail for 12 years, but you cared so much about your reputation. I didn't do anything else to ruin your reputation. That's what that meaning would be here. Now, one last thing before moving on to the next part. Let's say it was Yusuf. Imam al-Razi ends off. He's like, we don't know what's right, what's wrong. It seems that it might be Yusuf alayhi salam, but then there's so many complications going back and forth, and those complications, they come in the second ayah, but we're not going to be able to get to the second ayah. There's only 5 minutes left. Inshallah, we'll go over that ayah next time, but you can think about it over the week. If this was Yusuf alayhi salam, why did he say it to the king? I didn't betray the minister. Lam akhunhu, if Yusuf is the speaker, lam akhunhu bil ghayb. I did not betray the minister behind his back. What would be the benefit of him mentioning that to the king? No, go ahead. Shows he's trustworthy. Okay. Says the same thing. Okay. Anyone else? He's giving a clarification, but the question is, why is he giving the clarification? What's the point of giving the clarification? Promotion? Okay, so the minister role isn't available just yet, but yes, it's about promotion. Okay. The truth before, well, yeah, but that's already been established, right? Because he's unwilling to leave from the jail. But yes, in this situation, it's further emphasizing what the truth is, so that everything is above board. There's two interpretations that you could take away, and they both basically mean the same thing. The first is, King, I want you to know that I did not stab your right-hand man in the back, who was also the one who took such good care of me. Meaning, you want me to come closer to you. You want me to, you and I to have a relationship. I need you to know that I didn't betray someone else that put me into that position earlier. That's the first meaning. The second is, he wanted to clarify for the king. Because if this was the minister who was the right-hand man of the king, the second strongest possible position, then a betrayal to the minister automatically means a betrayal to the king as well. So he needs to clarify, I haven't betrayed you. None of what they accuse me of is true. Okay? So that's why he would mention it. So, we'll go over the rest of these, because there's a lot more to unpack in these two ayat. But he says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Yet I do not call myself blameless. Every innermost, I do not call myself blameless. Would Yusuf say that? Every innermost self keeps dictating evil, except as much as my master shows mercy. Indeed, my master is greatly forgiving and mercy-giving. Would the wife of the Aziz say that end part? But they're not monotheists. They don't follow Tawheed. They don't believe in Allah. See the complication? So this is something good to think over for the next week, and then we'll cover what Imam al-Razi mentions and what the possibilities are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our knowledge and understanding of the Quran and make us the people of the Quran. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.